You get her,
spends almost 3 hours defending her draft deal in the Commons, but a series of colleagues resigns.
I don't think so.
I'm here for 5 He's going into the...
Others on the Tory backbenches call for her to step down.
If she were to trigger it without getting the signatures, does she get the year's immunity?
Do join me in Downing Street.
I mean, does the year's immunity really...
The year's immunity is quite important.
De jure, but de facto. I mean, really, if they want to...
No, but it's important for her, because she would only trigger it.
Yes, certainly a Brexit breakdown as the Prime Minister faces the fight of her political life.
But the purpose for that is to get a year. Yeah. Which takes us through Brexit. Basically says, like, you've got confidence in me, therefore my approach goes. I mean, that's why you should. That was all this stuff going with go.
Gove will want to get out, definitely. Stafford is a complete disaster.
A Brexit breakdown as the Prime Minister faces the fight of her political life. Mrs May spends almost 3 hours defending her draft deal in the Commons, but a series of colleagues resigns. The Brexit Secretary, Dominic Raab, is the first big name to go. Others on the Conservative backbenches call for her to step down. Do join me in Downing Street for all the latest.
Red on one.
We've got Sky Data. That's quite good.
Just where would you like to into our meeting? The restraining order.
But I'm quite suspicious.
It's just kind of, as if there's like a buttons to it, which I sit in the Rolls Royce.
It's gone, isn't it?
Sorry, there's a solution.
Oh, yes. Oh, no.
It's gone for a referendum. Well, when rather get it.
Sorry?
I'd rather go to Judah. Oh,
Yes. Yes. What did you say? What was
not a big fan. Just logging in, just not logging into wine. Saying. Served in.
Yes, it is. It's true.
It's a long time in this industry.
Yes, it is. It's the chief. It's chief.
Adam Faisal, just step in.
Faisal?
Faisal.
Duck down.
Americans, so it's on the line or reading a line.
Actually here.
But James will go on that. So you want to stand up?
Is there a Miguel? Miguel from Spanish TV? Miguel?
Down the air in Spanish.
Miguel, the Greens.
Usually there's too many people.
Well, they're not there. This is also kind of like chicken go. I've never seen a scrum line. I had the Sam he showed up, the only guy in town who was correct. He said, so I just sort of said, look, I'm not going to carry on what you're doing. Actually, I'm not going to do that. And I'm going to put aside. going into night.
I'm doing the live full shot. Now I'm going to set up 15 to 40 PM.
It's like,
Just let you know, just in case.
are very serious people.
You're joking.
They're serious. They are there presenting some affection. That is undermining this.
It's the usual.
You know if I stand up?
It's crowds.
When you're racing, you're working along.
That bowl's quite
If I want to.
Well, I've got a light here. Oh, sorry. Right, go on. Yeah, I can put it on Downing Street too. When is it going to be? I can only do that up until 6 p.m. Okay? Because it's 6 p.m. only that.
Yeah, if that's all right, mate. I'll pull it out.
Ed, hello mate. Have you got any means of watching this press conference?
I mean, if they plug it into our, if they plug it into our 5,
Okay, she does have like alright.
yeah, okay, understood. I mean, it's a question.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
I mean, all the other polls should show a similar shift.
I know.
People will believe whatever.
Yeah? Shall I do it now? Ben, are you ready?
No, keep doing it.
cool, thank you.
Yes.
It's quite cleverly worded by, I mean, the Prime Minister's own words. She said these options are available. Me? Oh, no way.
Is that enough?
What's Mrs.
I've got to do a clap test.
Sweet. Hello. Yeah, in about 10-15 minutes. I mean, yeah. Okay, fine. Sure. Okay. No, that's all right. So you think there's going to be a hit at about 5-2 or 10-2? Okay, fine. Yeah, I'll hand over everything to. Yeah, fine. Cheers. Bye. Okay. I think I should probably hand over to you.
Okay,
They might have a hit.
okay.
They might have a hit at 10-2, but I'll be in by then.
Okay.
But not before. So shall I just hand over this to you? Yeah.
Thank you.
And then. Should I keep this on me? Alright.
Yep. Excellent, thank you. That's a bit odd.
Where's the clean feed coming from?
They're normally getting around the field.
Claudia's going to bring it.
Oh, right, that. Fine.
Claudia's going to bring a prospect box.
Lovely. 1091 seemed to be very. There wasn't very many bits in it, like Y leads and prospect boxes and things.
Oh, was that what you were planning to raid?
Yes, I was going to nick some earlier. So.
Were you down there earlier?
Yeah, I've been down there all day.
Yeah, remind me.
No, we haven't been bringing stuff because we've usually just been taking over, and there's already been crews doing lives and stuff here that we've just sort of taken over.
Yeah.
And just brought this stuff in really.
Yeah.
But then when we got here, there was no one here, and we were like, oh. So this was full of ladders to here. They've moved out other people's ladders to let us in.
Yeah, I'm hearing you. Are you hearing me?
So I was like, there was a millbank person here earlier.
Yeah.
And then they cleared off into their legs. So obviously everyone then was like, pile in.
It's okay. I mean, I've turned down the box a bit.
It's silly. I mean,
Yeah. So the ladder's ended there.
Yeah, hello, I'm here.
Yeah, for the backpack. Two should do a few hours. Two should do a few hours. No, not RTs. Oh, actually, yes. Bring one RT. That can be Neil Max KT. Neil Max KT from the region. Yeah. Make sure it's got the camera headset.
It's good that's that. It's good that we should make something of that stuff.
These leads.
I again need a charger. If you have one. Oh,
Are you going in, Vicky?
yeah, that's brilliant.
You going in?
No, I'll be out here. Was it only yesterday that we were here?
Yeah.
You love this.
Well, no, also a mini jack. On the floor in the main cab. Yeah, the Chinese takeaway lunch.
Layers on. Oh, I don't know. Am I not? Am I here or am I over there?
I've got 500. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe you're there. Sorry.
Yeah, it's Joey Jones.
Who's here then?
Maybe we're not. We're doing something for 5.
Yeah, but are they presenting from the 5 from here?
Maybe you're there then. Sorry, you can still charge your phone for free.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're not on, are you?
No, just one. Yeah. I've got an XLR one. If you've got a mini cap one, I've got an XLR one. If you get a mini jack one,
No. Is there any chance of getting an extra radio brought down as well?
An RT?
Yeah, RT.
For you or for press?
No, for producer for listening to various things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can we bring 2 of the RTs? 2 RTs? Yeah. Both. Yeah, so if you find the mini jack. Perfect. Okay.
How long have you been out? All day? All night?
Sorry. Yeah.
I was looking for casino because I thought come join us College Green. I was like,
Right. Okay. Okay. Good fun.
Will.
Equivalent press conference or
Well, it depends, doesn't it? I mean, if she announces it, then, you know.
you followed you're doing this job
Yeah, we read the story. It's what?
Sorry, forgive me.
Yeah.
I was probably full of
Back
school.
then, no, it was funny. It was the fact that it was deemed market sensitive.
Right.
So they invited us into the Downing Street gardens this summer. They confiscated everybody's phone. But we had agreed to go live, so we had this. Yeah? And they said they were going to start at 9, at 4:30. And in fact, they didn't start until about 20 past 5. They wanted everybody there to different markets, both markets and all that. So I was sitting there talking for 3/4 of an hour.
We've got a barrel of interview to help with the CNN one. We're just trying to run the couple ways live now, so we can do it. Somebody's got a problem. I did barrel.
And we got,
I know it's fun. I can tell I give it to you.
yeah,
It's got
about
weight.
22. We got the word that she was going to resign from the leadership.
No,
So we
David
went,
coming into
they were trying to stop it while we were talking. Who can? I mean, that's quite nice.
Well, there's somebody on the desk.
What have you got? You've got a food, and then we've got lapels.
I can't believe she'd trigger a leadership position. I think she'd do a vote of confidence. I can't believe she'd do a leadership position. And I can't believe there's any way she would.
Yeah, it's all working so far.
I mean, I just think her whole sense of service and what her duty is, I just can't. Can't see.
But I suppose if she
So it's so
if she
few
wins,
ways
that's what you'd
from
expect.
6. Oh, really? Oh, well, I know.
Yeah.
Well, don't watch it.
You know, it's actually good.
What?
Are you here through
The
the...
vote of confidence. Yeah, good. Oh yeah, winning a vote of confidence would be brilliant. Brilliant.
Nice one. All right, thank you.
When it happened to Major, was there any actual notion of
Well, there was, and the interesting thing was that in percentage of the party terms, he actually did worse than Mrs. Thatcher did in the first round when she stood down. But what they did was, it was summer, we're all on the green. And
I was really glad it wasn't raining because I don't know.
it was run by
Thank you.
they just flooded every cabinet, just flooded every camera in the room saying what a fantastic victory it was for John Major, and they just needed to go on, and they completely controlled the story. Yeah, I'm fine, yep.
I'll leave you to it.
Yeah, I am standing by. Yeah.
See you, mate. I'll come straight out, right?
Which is the camera I'm working to? This one, right? Yeah, I've got wires coming from both. Yeah. Am I in the right place? Yeah.
And carrying that on my shoulders.
What? Yes, I heard what Mr Farage had to say, predicting the pound will go down. I'm not sure that's necessarily the best performance for someone who wants to be an elected politician, but let's wait and see. Nigel Farage obviously preparing to carry on putting the pressure on the Prime Minister alongside the Conservative Brexiteers today, some of whom have resigned from the government, others of whom, including Jacob Rees-Mogg, now calling for a vote of confidence in her leadership. Steve Baker saying it's time that she should go. Now, this evening, Mrs May at 5 o'clock is due to fight back. She's announced a news conference, Kay. Be interesting to hear what she's going to say. There was always going to be a news conference after the Brexit deal was agreed with Brussels. But of course things are rather more charged, and I'm thinking back perhaps all the way to 1995. When you may remember, I and others were summoned for a news conference by then Prime Minister John Major when he announced that he was resigning his leadership to fight a leadership contest because of the constant barrage from the Eurosceptics, who he famously referred to in an off-camera remark as the bastards. Maybe Mrs May is going to preempt this attempt to gather signatures against her, or confirm that those signatures have been gathered, and say that she is happy to stand in a vote of confidence because she believes her party will support her. And of course, were she to win, that would certainly turn the tables on the likes of Jacob Rees-Mogg and even Mr Farage. Well, Mr Gove cancelled his engagements today as Environment Secretary. I'm told that most ministers were told to cancel their engagements because obviously at a time of sensitivity they don't want them necessarily to be exposed to the public gaze, but we understand that he has been considering his options. It is being reported that he has been offered the job of Brexit Secretary vacated by Dominic Raab. And I think it's pretty clear that given the mood of the Conservative Party, that job will have to be occupied by someone who has supported Brexit all along. We are told that Mr Gove is considering whether to take up that job and seems to be asking for conditions as to how free he would be to renegotiate or negotiate with the European Union going forward. Of course, the other option for him would be to follow Theresa May and Dominic Raab out of the government and join the Buccaneers, if you like, trying to bring down Mrs May and her Brexit deal, although Mr Gove is a thoughtful
One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good stuff. Okay. 1, 2.
Serving in high office is an honour and privilege. It is also a heavy responsibility. That is true at any time, but especially when the stakes are so high. And negotiating the UK's withdrawal from the EU after 40 years and building from the ground up a new and enduring relationship for the good of our children and grandchildren is a matter of the highest consequence. It touches almost every area of our national life, our whole economy and virtually every job, the livelihoods of our fellow citizens, our integrity as a United Kingdom of 4 nations, our safety and security. All of these are at stake. My approach throughout has been to put the national interest first, not a partisan interest, and certainly not my own political interest. I do not judge harshly those of my colleagues who seek to do the same, but who reach a different conclusion. They must do what they believe to be right, just as I do. I'm sorry that they've chosen to leave the government, and I thank them for their service. But I believe with every fibre of my being that the course I have set out is the right one for our country and all our people. From the very beginning, I have known what I wanted to deliver for the British people, to honour their vote in the referendum. Full control of our borders by bringing an end to the free movement of people, once and for all. Full control of our money, so we decide ourselves how to spend it on priorities like our NHS. Full control of our laws by ending the jurisdiction of the European Court of Justice in the United Kingdom, getting us out of the common agricultural policy and common fisheries policy for good. That is exactly what this agreement will deliver. Free movement ended. Vast annual payments stopped. The jurisdiction of the ECJ over. Out of the CAP, out of the CFP. This is a Brexit that delivers on the priorities of the British people. In achieving these objectives, I'm also determined to protect the things that are important to us. Protect the hundreds of thousands of manufacturing jobs that put food on the tables of working families right across the UK. Those jobs rely on cross-border trade in goods, with parts flowing easily in and out of the UK, allowing for integrated supply chains. This agreement protects that. Protect the close security cooperation that helps keep us safe. This agreement does that. Protect the integrity of the United Kingdom and the peaceful settlement in Northern Ireland by leaving the EU as one United Kingdom and having no hard border between Northern Ireland and Ireland. This agreement does that as well. Yes, difficult and sometimes uncomfortable decisions have had to be made. I understand fully that there are some who are unhappy with those compromises, but this deal delivers what people voted for, and it is in the national interest. And we can only secure it if we unite behind the agreement reached in Cabinet yesterday. If we do not move forward with that agreement, nobody can know for sure the consequences that will follow. It would be to take a path of deep and grave uncertainty when the British people just want us to get on with it. They are looking to the Conservative Party to deliver a Brexit that works for the whole UK, a strong economy that keeps jobs safe and wages rising, and first-class public services we can rely on, an NHS there for all of us, great schools for every child, and the homes that families need. That is what the people we serve expect, and that is what we owe it to them to deliver. Goodness me, you normally put your hand straight up after the... Laura.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. Laura Kunsberg, BBC News. It's very clear you want to stick to your plan. Isn't it the case, though, that others are seeking to take that decision out of your hands? And, Prime Minister, is it not the case now that you are in office, but you're not really in power?
No, when we bring the deal back, what is going to happen now is that there will be negotiations, particularly focusing on the future framework and filling their details of that out, and an EU Council meeting, and that will then be brought back to the House of Commons and to a vote in the House of Commons. I'm going to do my job of getting the best deal for Britain. I'm going to do my job of getting a deal that is in the national interest. When the vote comes before the House of Commons, MPs will be doing their job. They will need to look at that a deal. They will need to consider the vote of the British people to leave the European Union and our duty to deliver on that vote. And of course, they will be held to account by their constituents for the decisions that they take. Tom.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Tom Newton-Dunn for The Sun. Prime Minister, if there was a confidence vote held in your leadership of the Conservative Party, do you think it's in the national interest for you to fight it? And if you win by only one vote, will you carry on as Prime Minister?
Leadership is about taking the right decisions, not the easy ones. As Prime Minister, my job is to bring back a deal that delivers on the vote of the British people, that does that by ending free movement, all the things I raised in my statement, ending free movement, ensuring we're not sending vast annual sums to the EU any longer, ending the jurisdiction of the European Court of Justice, but also protects jobs and protects people's livelihoods, protects our security, protects the Union of the United Kingdom. I believe that this is a deal which does deliver that, which is in the national interest. And am I going to see this through? Yes. Next question. Yes? Yes. Sorry. Do you want a microphone?
Prime Minister Simon Viger from 5 News. Surely now even you have to admit this is not strong and stable.
What I think people will see is that what I and the government have done is been sticking to the job of ensuring that we're delivering for the British people. That's what we're doing. We're delivering in the national interest. And look, you know, MPs have been debating the best way to deliver Brexit ever since the referendum took place in 2016. And there's been much criticism throughout that time of the government's approach. People have been ready to point out what they don't like. But one simple fact remains, and that is that nobody has produced any alternative proposal which both delivers on the referendum and also ensures that there's no hard border between Northern Ireland and Ireland. And I understand some people feel uncomfortable about the details in the backstop, particularly in the withdrawal agreement, and I share some of those concerns. But there's another inescapable fact. There is no deal which can be agreed with the European Union that does not involve a backstop to act as an insurance policy against a return to the borders of the past in Northern Ireland. All the other approaches, Norway, Canada Plus, etc., they would all require a backstop. And the alternative of repudiating that backstop would not only mean reneging on a promise to the people of Northern Ireland, but it would also collapse the negotiation and end hopes of securing a deal. So what has the government been doing? We have been absolutely clear in focusing on delivering what is in the best interests of the British people. Faisal.
Faisal Islam, Sky News. Prime Minister, are you not in denial about the chances of getting this deal through Parliament? And for the critics in your own party that have been sending in letters very publicly, is it time for them to put up or shut up?
What I have, as I think you may have heard me say in the House of Commons earlier today, as I've just reiterated here, I'm going to do my job of bringing back the best deal for the United Kingdom. That will then be put before the House of Commons. It will be put before members of Parliament in a meaningful vote. Their job will be to look at that deal. Their job will be to consider the interests of their constituents, and their job will be to consider how we can deliver on the vote of the British people to leave the European Union. And I think most people watching this or listening to this will recognise that this is not an easy thing to do. This is a complex negotiation. But I think what most people want to know is that what we will deliver will be in their interests. It will protect jobs, it will protect security, it will ensure a great future for this country. Yes.
Rob Hutton from Bloomberg. Isn't it time to say what you clearly think, which is that the Brexit campaign offered something that was not on the menu? It offered very, very easy trade negotiations. It offered there was going to be no problem at all with the Irish border. It was all going to be fantastically straightforward. The European Union was going to give us everything we wanted because of BMW and Prosecco and things like that. Isn't it time to say that I'm afraid some of the things that you were promised, they were never there.
No, look, I think most people in this country recognise that after 40 years of membership of the European Union, delivering Brexit, dealing with how we're going to withdraw from the EU and what our future relationship is not an easy negotiation. These are complex issues. I think what most members of the public want, those actually who voted for leave and many of those who voted for Remain as well, is for the government to get on with it. That's exactly what we're doing. And for the government to deliver a deal that is in the national interest, that is going to protect their jobs, and that is going to ensure that we have a great future for this country. And that's exactly what we're doing. Yes, over.
Julia McFarlane, ABC News. Prime Minister, what would you say to Britain's friends and allies abroad who are watching all this happening and witnessing what's increasingly looking like a government in chaos?
I think what people in Brussels will be seeing is that the government has agreed the withdrawal agreement. They've recognised, and the draft outline political declaration. They have recognised that by the fact that President Juncker has written to the EU Council, to President Tusk, to say that decisive progress has been made in the negotiations, and on that basis, a council has been called for the 25th of November. And I think they see a government that is intent on working with them to ensure that we deliver a good deal for the British people. But as I've always said, I think a good deal for the UK is a good deal for the EU as well. Robert.
Prime Minister, you've said that your deal is in the national interest, but your party is deeply divided on it, perhaps more divided than any of us have ever seen. Are you prepared to risk the breakup of your party to deliver the deal you believe in?
As I've just said, Robert, in answer to an earlier question, MPs have been debating how best to deliver on the result of the referendum ever since the result of the referendum took place. I think what the British people want us to do, and I believe what MPs will do when it comes to the vote in the House of Commons, is focus on the fact that people have voted to leave and focus on how we do that in a way that is good for the United Kingdom. I'm committed as Prime Minister to bringing the best deal back for the United Kingdom. That's what I'm going to be doing, and I expect when we come that members of Parliament across my party will look at that deal, will recognise the importance of delivering on the vote of the British people, and recognise the importance of doing that in a way that does protect people's jobs, that does protect our security, and does protect our United Kingdom. George?
Gordon Rayner from The Telegraph.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right. Prime Minister...
You got the G right at
least. There are reports tonight that Michael Gove has been asked to become the new Brexit Secretary, but that he will only take that job on condition that he is allowed to go back to Brussels and try for more concessions. Will you allow whoever becomes the new Brexit Secretary to do that, to try and get more concessions? And there have been no announcements yet on any appointments to replace people who've resigned. Are you struggling to find people who want to fill those roles?
Now, I've had actually rather a busy day, as you might have seen, 3 hours in the House of Commons. Seriously, look, Michael has been doing an excellent job at DEFRA, and particularly in his defence of the fishing industry. And as you'll see, there's some very important elements of the outline political declaration which recognise that the United Kingdom will be an independent coastal state in the future. Fishing is an issue that matters to people, and Michael's been doing an excellent job in terms of ensuring that we're delivering on that commitment that we have to come out of the common fisheries policy. I haven't appointed a new DEXU secretary yet, and I will of course be making appointments to the government in due course. Jason?
Thank you. Jason Gross from the Daily Mail. Just to follow up Tom's question, we've seen several of your colleagues today declare that they no longer have confidence in your leadership. What will you do if there's a vote of no confidence in the coming days?
Well, as I said earlier, look, leadership is about making the right decisions, not taking the easy decisions. As Prime Minister, my job is to get the best deal for Britain and to bring that deal back to the House of Commons, and that's exactly what I am focused on doing. I think members of the public want the government to get on with delivering on Brexit for them. And as I said earlier, am I going to see this through? Yes. Who shall we have here in front?
Prime Minister, thank you very much. Nick Robertson from CNN. You've talked about leadership as being the position of taking hard decisions, the right decisions, that some of the choices have not been easy. Would you share with the country now some of those decisions that you personally have found have been the hard, tough, not easy decisions to take?
Well, in relation to the deal that we're looking at, there's, as I've said before, I recognise there are concerns about the backstop. That is an issue, and I share many of those concerns. And the decision to go forward and on the basis that we have was not an easy one. There was a very good and impassioned debate that took place in the Cabinet yesterday over these issues. But overall, looking at the national interest, we agreed as a Cabinet and as a government that the deal that we have is the right one to proceed with, to go to the next stage of the negotiations, and obviously those negotiations will lead up to the EU Council on the 25th of November. Mesa?
Thank you, Prime Minister. Mesa Hall from the Daily Express. Ever since you've been in this job, you've always been adamant that the country will leave the EU in March next year. Over the last couple of days, you've talked about the risk of no Brexit. Do you think, given the forces that are lined up in opposition to your deal, that that is now becoming a definite threat?
Well, there were a number of members of Parliament who stood up in the House of Commons today and said that their view was that staying within the European Union was the right thing to do. I disagree. We gave the vote to the British people. Parliament overwhelmingly gave that vote to the British people to decide whether or not to stay in the European Union. The people voted to leave, and I believe it is our duty as a government, I believe it's our duty as members of Parliament to deliver on that vote of the British people. And we will be leaving on the 29th of March 2019. On the edge there, sorry, yes,
Thank you, Prime Minister. Matthew Thompson from LBC. I'm just wondering to what extent this crisis is to some extent of your own making, in the sense that it's a failure of expectation management and not bringing people like the DUP and hardliners within your own party along with you. Obviously, they weren't going to like what was in this deal. Should you not have brought them on board a little bit more quickly?
We have been working on this deal and negotiating on this deal. There have been various staging posts where we've made clear to people what the approach that we're taking in relation to these issues. That happened in December at the joint report, obviously. Then there was further information that we put forward in the spring, and then in July our approach was clearly set out for people. We have, of course, been discussing with colleagues and with people in the House of Commons, as we have been discussing with business and others as we progress through in putting this deal together. What has been the focus, as I said earlier, is making sure that the deal that we deliver is a deal that delivers on the vote of the British people, that does so in a way which is in the best national interest, which ensures that we protect people's jobs and livelihood and security, but also ensures that we are able to move forward outside the European Union as a global Britain, and, for example, to ensure that we can negotiate trade deals around the rest of the world. I believe that's what's in the interests of people here in this country, and that's what we will deliver. I'll take a couple more questions. Now, George.
Sorry, Paul War, HuffPost.
Oh, have I done it again?
Lots of reporters...
Anybody who thinks I've got George Parker on my mind is, you know...
It's lots of reporters with no hair, Prime Minister. I think that's it. Prime Minister, if the House of Commons voted by a majority for another referendum, for a people's vote, would you see that as a resignation matter, or would you see that as you having to implement the will of Parliament as Prime Minister?
Well, look, I have taken a very clear view about the question of a second referendum. I've made that view clear to members of Parliament. And I think actually across the House of Commons, most members of Parliament recognise that they gave a vote to the British people, and the British people voted, and it's up to us to deliver on that vote and not have a second referendum. As far as I'm concerned, there will not be a second referendum. We asked people their view. They said we should leave the European Union, and we will leave the European Union, and we will leave on the 29th of March 2019. Look, if you look across the House of Commons, yes, there have been some voices for a second referendum. But I believe, actually, when people come to look at the deal that we bring back from the European Council, the final package that we bring back from the European Council, they will look at delivering on the vote of the British people and at doing so in a way that protects the interests of their constituents. And I believe that is the question that members of Parliament will be asking themselves at that point, not about a second referendum. I'll take, as I said, just a couple more. Just in there.
Hi, I'm Hannah Al-Othman from BuzzFeed News. My question is, given the difficulty you're likely to have getting this deal through Parliament, do you regret calling a general election last year?
No, I don't regret calling a general election last year. As I say, you know, when it comes to the vote in Parliament, there will be a decision for MPs to take. I'm going to do my job. I'm going to bring the best deal back for the British people, and MPs will then do their job and, of course, be held to account by their constituents for it. So the last question I'll take here.
Thank you. Joe Waltz, The Independent. Prime Minister, you're a cricket fan. From the outside, it looks like, at the moment, you're a long, long way off getting the number of runs that you need, but your batsmen are dropping like flies. Is there any number of wickets that will fall in your cabinet before you resign as captain?
Well, can I just say that you might recall from previous comments I've made about cricket that one of my cricket heroes was always Geoffrey Boycott. And what did you know about Geoffrey Boycott? Geoffrey Boycott stuck to it, and he got the runs in the end. Thank you.
Going to grind it out. Okay. Cricket analogy at the end. All right, brilliant. Thanks so much. All right, speak to you, mate. The cricket analogy at the end.
Yes, Mark, it was the Theresa May we anticipated, the very determined one. She opened with that very brief statement, again making the case for the deal that she's brought home, and actually caught the journalists rather off guard, because I think some of them were expecting her to go further. But what is fascinating about her is that she is deliberately taking the emotion out of this. There's so much heat here at Westminster, but you know, she opened up by saying she didn't blame people like Dominic Raab and others who'd resigned from the cabinet. She thought they were sincere, but they were wrong. And you know, when she was asked that question about the potential vote of confidence in her, she didn't answer it absolutely directly. She just said, look, I see my job as being to see this through, to taking the deal to a vote and hoping to win that. And you know, it has to be said, a lot of people have fallen by the wayside, resigned, attacked, criticised her, and she is still standing around those 2 points that we stressed at the very beginning, that she feels she has a duty and a determination to deliver on the Brexit vote. She said a number of times, we will be leaving the European Union on the 29th of March next year, but also to do it, as she argued and as she sees it, in the least damaging and most positive way for the country in terms of the economy and jobs.
And saying that we won't be spending money every year to do any more. We're sticking to the time to actually sticking to the job. I never had to allow her to get this position when she puts that vote in the House is of course another matter. Okay, the rest.
Well, I'm a little bit puzzled, to be honest, because we have that very sort of bold performance, not necessarily the most impressive performance by Jacob Rees-Mogg, saying that he'd sent in his letter. We also had the former minister, Steve Baker, saying they'd sent in a letter. The atmosphere seemed very much targeted against Mrs May for the first time. And you remember Rees-Mogg asked the Prime Minister directly in the statement why he shouldn't ask for a vote of confidence in her. And certainly there's been a lot of action in Westminster, assuming that the European Research Group, which claims to be 80 to 100 strong, certainly had enough Tory MPs in it to trigger this vote. Now, so far, that hasn't happened. On the record, we've seen about 16 or 17 MPs say they've sent in letters, so they seem to be a long way short of it. And it may be, as you say, that they're going to begin to back off and turn around and say, oh, well, in spite of what we said, it's not about individuals, it's about trying to organise to defeat this bill containing the withdrawal deal. But what the Prime Minister just said, and what she said in the Commons earlier on, made it very clear that she is going to challenge them and hold their feet to the fire, if you like, by pressing ahead with this deal and bringing it before the Commons. So that's the moment where they're going to have to decide if they can't get enough people to vote against her, as I say, in a vote of confidence, or to call a vote of confidence. The moment where they'll have to knife her will be in the division lobbies in the meaningful vote on this proposal for withdrawing from the EU.
Today began with a raft of resignations, including the Brexit Secretary himself, Dominic Raab, followed shortly by...
I think, we've seen a remarkable side of this Prime Minister. I mean, we've got to know her. People call her the May bot. I mean, as I say, she doesn't smile a lot. She doesn't try to make friends or to challenge her enemies, but she just presses on. And that analogy with Geoffrey Boycott as doing it slowly and dourly but brilliantly is certainly one I think she will be pleased with today, and maybe his hopes of the knighthood have gone up
This
again.
morning the Prime Minister took question after question as she tried to defend her draft deal in a marathon 3-hour session amid criticism from all sides.
Well, my guess is that if there are enough signatures for a vote of confidence, I think the evidence is that she would probably win that, and that would strengthen her. But she's clearly saying, look, that's a distraction. The focus is getting through this withdrawal, and that requires a vote in Parliament supporting me. And that will clearly be the moment of maximum danger, because at the moment, if you look at the parliamentary arithmetic, it's difficult to see how the votes are there. But this is a woman who's steamrolled forward for a number of months now with her Brexit plans, and obviously she's going to keep her foot on the pedal of that steamroller.
Fight on for her draft Brexit agreement, insisting it delivers what people voted for and is in the national interest. Today began with a raft of resignations of 4 ministers in total, 2 cabinet ministers, among them the Brexit Secretary Dominic Raab, followed shortly after by the Work and Pensions Secretary Esther McVeigh. Theresa May then spent 3 hours on her feet in the Commons defending her draft Brexit agreement with the EU amid criticism from MPs on
Speaking in the past tense about leadership.
And then more drama outside as the leading Eurosceptic MP Jacob Rees-Mogg announced he was submitting a letter of no confidence in the Prime Minister's leadership, saying her Brexit deal had turned out to be worse than anticipated. Our political editor Laura Kunsberg now reports on today's turmoil in Westminster. Can all of you go a little bit faster, just because I'm literally getting the line right at the bottom, but that's great. Thank you.
Turn back on. If we could get it, I don't think it's working. We'll get it. But I think you might have to go with a fix that. There's no one finding out the door just yet, so it's probably fixed.
Do we know? I don't even know.
Right.
Yes.
Right, that's running. That's on this button. push him?
Yeah, he is. We can have a chat now.
Is it on the lead queue? For the headline, you mean right at the top?
Nothing revelatory. No, I'm thinking
just a little nudge off right at the top.
Okay.
And then a nudge again in the lead queue. Yeah. So a little nudge right at the top. Yeah. And then a nudge.
When Sophie starts speaking?
Yeah. So Stuart, when Sophie starts speaking?
Definitely landing on the spot. Are you high up? No, you're on the ladder.
Are you able to hear clean
So that's just Chris Morris. Then what's off the back? Then I've got Andy.
Yeah, okay, so
plan,
you cue Rafe then, Stuart, yeah? Okay, all right, cheers.
And is that a package or a live?
I'm just reloading the call, but pictures are landing and stuff.
Then Sarah Smith live?
Live pictures.
Okay. Okay, and the cashier is in reaction when they make you all
So just a little
there. And then what happens? Ben is doing right, Ben is and then we do Danny. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm in the lead.
All right.
Sorry, Jamie, you're all right. Yeah, okay. Can you just talk us through what's coming next? Are you happy with it?
You just cue me, I'll talk. I don't mind. You just talk.
That's all right, don't worry.
So we're not on top.
Yeah, we're doing it, yeah. You and me.
So maybe spec up
and you're acting.
I think so.
We should.
I mean, no one's
back.
Back.
No. The way you came yet.
Right, okay. That could be your establishment, but obviously only go with it if Stuart's got a 30 all good. Yeah, that would be the wide shot.
They're all the same as that. The gallery called out, so they hear it. So they're listening.
Right. So Jamie, if you could just pass on to Stuart that the cameraman on the establishment should be able to hear him if he wants to speak to him.
Oh. Well, Leicester's got off it. Yeah, the peers were really.
Can you sign a shard? No. A shard? Right, a shard. They've only got an hour. Brilliant. Good girl. She's done it. I can't hear output. Should I be hearing output or not? Hi.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Well done. Perfect timing.
Tears are scrambling around what they were. I'm so confused by her answers. Is she willing to try and renegotiate? They're barking up the renegotiation.
Yeah, and then I'm fine, yeah. Give me that.
What are we doing at top? Am I talking to Faisal, or do you want Faisal direct? What do you want?
So let's say do 7 and then reassess.
Well, if you want... Okay, well, if I'm finished, just do Faisal, it'll probably be easier. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Coming in now.
Are you staying in your job?
Are you staying in the cabin to resign yourself?
Resign.
Are you going to resign? Hi. You're right. Sometimes you've got to just go for it, you know? We've got like 10 minutes, right?
We've got ages.
Yes. Sure. Get out.
You don't want to fine.
What do you think Penny Moore's here for? Going?
Like resigning, or they might be trying to get her to be Brexit secretary. I think Gove just turned it down.
Michael, the wires are saying that Michael Gove might be about to resign.
Yes, but the thing is that I know he's been in to see her. And then if he goes, that's it.
If he goes, that's it.
I think so.
And her too. Right, we're going. 1 minute. Am I right? good position here?
That's it.
Happy? Tonight at 6, the Prime Minister has insisted she will fight on with her Brexit plan despite a day of turmoil and drama in Westminster. In Downing Street tonight, Theresa May has just held a news conference where she said she was trying to get the best deal for Britain. Today began with a raft of resignations, including the Brexit Secretary himself, Dominic Raab, followed shortly by fellow Cabinet Minister Esther McVey. The leading Brexiteer, Jacob Rees-Mogg, submits a letter of no confidence in the Prime Minister and says he expects there'll be a vote on her future. This morning, the Prime Minister took question after question as she defended her draft deal in a marathon 3-hour session amid criticism from all sides.
Hello. Hello.
Good evening from Downing Street on what has been the most dramatic of days as the Prime Minister fights for her future. In the last few moments, Theresa May has vowed to fight on for her draft Brexit agreement, insisting it delivers what people voted for and is in the national interest. Today began with a raft of resignations of 4 ministers in total, 2 cabinet ministers among them, the Brexit Secretary Dominic Raab, followed within the hour by the Work and Pensions Secretary Esther McVey. Theresa May then spent 3 hours on her feet in the Commons defending her draft Brexit withdrawal agreement with the EU amid criticism from MPs on all sides. And then more drama outside as the leading Eurosceptic MP, Jacob Rees-Mogg, announced he was submitting a letter of no confidence in the Prime Minister's leadership, saying her Brexit deal had turned out to be worse than anticipated. Our political editor, Laura Koonsberg, reports now on today's turmoil in Westminster.
Okay.
Right. Laura, 2 questions.
You've got picture breakup, yeah?
Can I have the rest of the scripts? Thanks.
Hello, mate.
2 questions, Laura, yeah?
Sure, yeah, whatever you like. So, I mean, that's something you have to say.
You've just been in there, she's been talking to me in the last half hour, she vows to go on. But what about her position now? We've just seen Penny Mordaunt go in.
So where are we trying to split it? Where are we doing? She said she should stay on establishment.
Yeah.
So well, the fact is, it's up to her, you've got that,
Yeah.
and we'll see. And the last minute, Penny Mordaunt go in, what's going on with the cabinet, and then I'll do, well, go, you think it's a good job, hasn't accepted it yet, Mordaunt goes in.
Fine.
So exactly. Might have more.
And he didn't use the pre-req one. All right.
Laura, can they have you in position and have the mic up and stuff and check your levels a second? I'm gonna step out just so you know. I'm gonna step when I'm gonna introduce you and then I'm gonna step back in. So if go guys.
Chief Whip, will the Prime Minister survive the night? Is Michael Gove resigned, Chief Whip?
And what, she just have to stand up, she just have to quit.
No, unless it is the new Brexit Secretary. Laura, sorry, can you move?
My picture's frozen.
Where do you want me to move to?
My picture's me.
There's a pull shot on the
Here.
top.
They're completely frozen.
Yep, my picture's frozen. I'm back. Yep.
Okay, Smithson is in a car on his way out of Downing Street, must be going back. Someone said to me, someone just said to me, Gove might not go, or don't go, and there might be some support from the three of them, trying to pressure him to change her position, but someone else just told me he has resigned, so that I don't know if Smith is on the way back to see if we can get
Yeah, no. Yes, she absolutely is fighting on. There was a brief moment at the beginning of that press statement where she started to talk about her tenure in the past tense, and we were thought we might be getting a rather unexpected development. But no, the Prime Minister fighting on, as you say, recognising the reality of some of those letters that had been put in, saying she fights on regardless, invited to use some sort of cricketing analogy at the end of that press conference. Prime Minister likening herself to one of her heroes, Geoffrey Boycott, saying that he got the runs in the end, but famously not in a flashy style. Talking of flash photography, we have Penny Mordaunt has just arrived here and is in with the Prime Minister right now. We know that she has been somewhat sceptical about this deal, but has chosen so far to stay in her position as Development Secretary, one of the principal Vote Leave campaigners, but she's in there. We're not entirely sure where she goes. She wanted to talk things through as regards this deal, so I don't think the drama is necessarily over. We're waiting to hear about what's happening with the Environment Secretary, Michael Gove, facing a tough job in terms of Brexit in his own department, DEFRA, reportedly off the position of Brexit Secretary, the now vacant position of Brexit Secretary, but pondering his own position too. Now, if he was to go, and we don't know that that's the case, but if he was to go, that would be, well, losing the Brexit Secretary, or second Brexit Secretary in 3 or 4 months was quite the blow, but losing Michael Gove would be really almost catastrophic for the Prime
Stuart,
Minister.
I'm going to come out.
I mean, these are the sorts of things that I'm being told by former loyal May loyalists. She's finished, Boris will strike, several people already positioned themselves as caretaker. And it really was quite remarkable to see Jacob Rees-Mogg. You saw the press conference afterwards, but actually his confrontation of the Prime Minister inside the chamber, telling the Prime Minister that he basically didn't believe what she was saying anymore, daring her to persuade him not to lodge that letter to the chair of the 1922 committee. Well, he did do that, as did the former Brexit Minister Steve Baker, very publicly, and they are now going around essentially trying to get their allies to lodge further letters so they get up to the 48. It has been perceived wisdom in Westminster that although the Brexiters could get the necessary number to trigger a ballot, it'd be far more difficult, highly unlikely for them to actually get the half of Tory MPs that they would be required to actually unseat her. And that explains some of the confidence that you're seeing from number 10. But others, people I simply have not expected in the past to be concerned about the Prime Minister's future, have been telling me that they are worried about her being the leader of their party. So very shaky situation. We knew that there was a problem as regards, as my question to the Prime Minister articulated, about the numbers as regards the meaningful vote on this deal. But there's also this question now about her own future within the Conservative Party. And all the while, she isn't getting the chance to do what she wants to do desperately right now, which is to sell what she sees as a reasonable compromise on Brexit to try to unite not just her party and her cabinet, but the country too. No problems.
And Laura is with me now. You've just come out of that press conference. The Prime Minister vowing to fight on, sticking to her plan. Is that realistic?
I'm not sure how realistic it is, Sophie. And the truth of the matter, the hard fact for Theresa May is it's not just up to her anymore. It's absolutely plain that she wants to stay. We also know now, after a long time, the kind of relationship that we might get with the European Union for years to come if she is the one who stays on in charge. But we don't know if her party are going to elect her. We don't know how many more of her senior colleagues might also leave government, perhaps even some more tonight. And at this stage, it is not possible to say whether or not Theresa May is going to still be in charge here, maybe even in a few days' time. This could be another one of these political storms that blows up and then it blows through after a few days. But it could also be something much more serious that sees her swept from power.
It certainly feels very on the edge tonight. We just saw 5 minutes ago another member of the Cabinet, Penny Mordaunt, arrive here. Who knows what's going to happen?
Well, yes, and Penny Mordaunt is, along with other Brexiteers, one of those who's been deeply unhappy about the compromises that Theresa May has reached with the European Union. Who knows what they are discussing in there tonight? There have been swirling rumours all day that Penny Mordaunt might be another one to leave the cabinet. I also know that Michael Gove, of course, one of the architects of the Vote Leave Brexit campaign, currently the Environment Secretary, I've been told that Theresa May has offered to make him the Brexit Secretary. As yet, we don't know if he's accepted that job. If he hasn't, what's his real plan? Might he go too? It's just too early to say whether this is absolutely what we're witnessing at the beginning of the end of Theresa May's government. It may well be. Something is extremely wrong at the heart of all of this.
Laura, we'll talk to you again later in the programme. Thank you. Well, at the heart of today's turmoil is the draft withdrawal agreement that was published last night. That agreement is about how the UK leaves the EU, not about any permanent future relationship. So what's in it that has caused so much controversy? Our correspondent Chris Morris from BBC's Reality Check has been reading it.
I'm seeing quite dramatic breakup actually. That's all right, it's just a
Are we breaking up on telly or are we just breaking up on
broke up a little bit of the top shoe, but it's fine, don't worry, we're okay now.
I've turned off the third code that was doing the press, that's not what happened again. We have 3 coders, because we brought them as well. That's off now.
Right, okay.
Okay. So next boxes is what?
I think Jamie, we're okay.
What am I doing next?
So you're into the business.
Oh, just with Andy. Yeah, just with Andy.
So it's just Andy Verity next. After Andy Verity?
There's just Andy. Then it's a package in the line.
Picture frozen again. Okay.
On Sophie?
Yeah, on Sophie.
Why is it doing that? Is it frozen on air or not? Just once.
No.
I'm ready. Have you got me or not? Have you got me?
Yeah. And then after that, Jamie?
Water queue is freezing as well.
That's 2 removed, isn't it? Source says it's number 10 now.
Just say that.
Yeah, fine. I mean,
Chris Morris, thank you. Well, business leaders have been expressing alarm at the prospect of a Brexit deal unravelling and the UK leaving the EU next March with no deal at all. The EU is Britain's biggest trading partner. The uncertainty has triggered a fall in the pound and in shares in banks, retailers, house builders, amongst others. Our economics correspondent, Andy Verity, joins me now. And stability, certainty, that's what business wants, and it's certainly not getting it today. Andy Verity, thank you. Well, all along, one of the major sticking points has been over the border between Northern Ireland and Ireland, the UK's land border with the EU, and how that will work after Brexit. It's a question which has caused controversy and division in Westminster and in Ireland itself, as our Ireland correspondent Emma Vardy reports.
Is that all right? Will the picture okay? Okay.
Thanks, we don't move it.
Scotland ECL next?
Scotland's First Minister says the draft agreement doesn't protect Scottish interests and strengthens the case for independence. She says the proposed deal puts Scotland in a position. What does Sarah actually want? Am I handing to Sarah, or does she want a question?
Oh, questions.
Does she want one, or am I handing to her?
Unhappiness in Edinburgh.
Yep, in Scotland. Well,
how unhappy are they then? Okay.
I'll just hand to her. I mean, should I just hand to her? Sorry. I mean, it's obviously anyway.
Reaction.
Yeah, reaction.
She sends up my what's the reaction there? Okay. All right.
First Minister Nicola Sturgeon says the draft agreement. Thanks, Vic. Scotland's First Minister Nicola Sturgeon says the draft agreement doesn't protect Scottish interests and strengthens the case for independence. She says the proposed deal puts Scotland at a competitive disadvantage because it would take Scotland out of the single market, while Northern Ireland, in effect, would stay in. Our Scotland editor, Sarah Smith, joins us now from Edinburgh. And reaction there tonight? it Damien? I thought it was Katya.
It's definitely Damien. It's Jamie, yeah? Is that right?
Damien, fine.
Damien.
Okay.
Okay. Understood.
Sarah, thank you. Well, this morning, EU leaders confirmed that there will be a special summit on November the 25th to confirm the Brexit deal. But will there still be a deal to confirm? Our Europe correspondent Damien Grammaticus is in Brussels, and what have they made watching all this unfold today? Damien Grammaticus in Brussels, thank you. Certainly an awful lot of questions unanswered tonight. We'll be back later on in the programme, but right now it's time to go back to Ben in the studio.
Thanks so much. Oh, so we're literally here for a couple of minutes. Do you want to stay on the hallway?
Yeah. Oh no, right, it just tell me what it says. Oh, you got the early one, it hasn't changed. Minute and a half? Oh God, really, that quick? And then is it, then what happens? Just tell me it's that. Into Savage, then what happens? Then Laura.
Then Laura, and then the weather.
Yeah, and then what? Weather.
The weather.
Who's the weather?
Oh, who's on the weather, Jamie?
Chris Fawkes.
Right.
And then is there an end head or not?
No end head.
No end head. So that's it from us. Coverage, of course, throughout the evening on BBC News. She will be here at 10. Oh, she's there. She ducked down.
I'm trying to stay out of the shot.
I thought I had you in my
Well, I was there.
30 seconds.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, just a minute for the last one.
On the 29th of March 2019, that is the day the UK was due to leave the EU. We've heard a lot from politicians about backstops, customs unions, and people who voted in that referendum 2.5 years ago. Think about what we have seen here in Westminster today. I don't expect day. Oh, it's fine. It's got it. Thank you. Well, the 29th of March 2019 is the day the UK is due to leave the European Union. We've heard a lot from politicians about backstops, customs unions and transition periods. But what do the people who voted in that referendum 2.5 years ago think about where we are now? Our correspondent Danny Savage has spent the day in Newcastle finding out. Right, Laura, what do you want? Up some. Have you got any new?
Gove's just got home. I'm sure
Oh,
the
okay,
viewers,
very
viewers of
excited.
the
Fascinating. You got one, Find My Friends.
fascinated to know what.
You got one iPhone, Find My Friends.
That's a great idea.
Come this way, Laura, if you don't mind, just over that line.
So I'm doing the same. So, Laura, one question.
Yeah, sorry, Laura, just one little place
Yeah,
forward.
sure.
Yeah, thank you.
How perilous is the Prime Minister's situation tonight? Yeah.
Fine, I'll say just as dangerous as the morning after the general election.
And then I will step back in. So I'm going to step out, step back in, and hand to Chris Fawkes. Yeah.
Sorry, Laura. Tiny, that's it. Yeah, please.
Rising threats to her leadership, but the Prime Minister holds firm. A growing number of her own backbench supporters made today that she's refusing to back down from Brexit.
Yeah, a couple of words of love.
Yeah, I'll be talking about this level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's quite tight, so it's just fine.
How long has she got? A minute.
Right.
Yes, they are. No, yes, they're going into E&Q.
May is inside number 10. She's still the Prime Minister. How long do you have for now, please?
Well, let's get a last word now from our political editor, Laura Koonsberg. And events have moved very quickly today. How perilous is the position of the Prime Minister tonight?
Well, Sophie, it reminds me of the early hours of the morning after the general election. Only last year so much has happened since then, when it genuinely was not clear if the Prime Minister would be able to keep her place here in 10 Downing Street. Now then, her colleagues did rally round. She was able to stay on. Enough senior figures in the Conservative Party thought, look, yes, actually, she's still our best option. With all the divisions of Brexit, she's the only person in the middle who might be able to contain all the different factions of the wriggling, rowing Conservative Party at such a difficult time. At this moment, it's just too early to say whether or not anybody is going to come to her rescue in that way. She seems to me to be genuinely on the precipice, but what we do know about her is that she has shown time and again extraordinary determination, extraordinary resilience for her and for this Conservative Party. This isn't just about her leadership, it's whether or not Brexit itself actually can happen out of all of this chaos. So she will not depart this office, leave this street as her home, I believe, unless and until it is absolutely clear to her that she genuinely has no other option.
Thank you. Let's have a look at the weather now. Chris Fawkes joins us.
Thanks, Laura. Yeah.
Mary.
Sophie, you might just want to nod towards 10.
Yeah, 10.
You will
Q
have
over
more
here.
at 10.
Yeah, that's all from us for now in Downing Street.
Seven resignations and rising threats to her leadership, but the Prime Minister holds firm.
Yeah.
A growing number of her own backbenchers call on Theresa May to go, but she is refusing to back down over Brexit.
secretaries among the MPs who resigned from the government. Mrs May's hope that the Commons will vote through the deal hangs by a thread. She faces a barrage of frustration first inside and outside. Downing Street, where after a day of resignations and questions about...
Chris, thank you. Well, that's all from us here in Downing Street for now. There is, of course, continuing coverage throughout the evening on BBC News, and Hugh Edwards will be here at 10 with all the latest. But now on BBC One, we join the BBC's news teams. When you are. Goodbye.
Throughout the day, Theresa May was terrified on all sides and was forced to defend her plans to a hostile House of Commons.
Great. Thanks for your help, Jane. You're much obliged. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jane. And another senior cabinet. More of her own MPs. But Mrs May is says
thank you so much. Very kind.
Westminster is at
I've taken my thing now. Oh, great.
Thanks very much indeed. You probably won't be. You're not here for 10, you?
I don't know. Right, I left earlier. Yeah. I might be. I think we brought another camera. We just only got 100 meg. And we normally run 3 cameras. So I turned the state volume off. And I dropped the shot cam down a bit.
Right. What's the way to handle that attendant? Just to make sure that's going to work.
I'll make sure no one's on the Wi-Fi. And I'll turn the state value back on it.
Okay. Listen, thanks for your help. Hey, listen, his father sometimes.
So it's hitting the buffers on the index, like we were maxing out the data through the cabinet because we brought another camera and I fixed the Wi-Fi and looking at the queues. I know I kicked everyone off. I was just going through block. So I should unblock it now.
Does that make sense? So I think when you're looking at the applications,
how much have you got?
100 megs. So they're going up to a gig soon.
I know. But if that's the case, then not yet.
And was it just so that all
Yeah,
We brought up another camera and the buffers. I don't think the queuing is set.
My wife will know that I tried.
Why? That's too much. Brought up another camera. And earlier in the day, so I was then going through kicking it off the lights. And I turned it off.
I think someone else might be using 630.3. If I can You did the right thing, even if it comes over, you did the right thing.
Yeah.
I'll log in again.
Prime Minister, the UK will be negotiating access to oil waters and our fishing quotas, when she takes the view that we're taking back control. We shouldn't be negotiating. Marcus Fish, the Yeovil MP, another leading Brexiteer, has to reveal whether he's actually sent in his letter demanding Mrs May go. He said he can't see how she can remain with honour, having presided over the Sky humiliating surrender. On the other side of the coin, Sarah Williston, the pro-European topless MP, as evil family. No, I mean, there are quite a number of decided on these. I think those are the really interesting ones. If and when, I say if, I'll come back to that in a minute, this proposal comes to a vote in Parliament, because I think at the end of the day, it's a wise compromise. Surprised that Gary Street is Mr. MP is kind of support of the Prime Minister. But I think when things like Steve Douglas or also these guys, Gary Thomas, who are honouring the text, these are the MPs who can potentially swing the vote either way. I think the bad news for the Prime Minister is that there are those MPs among those who said they're waiting to make an informed judgment based on what the text actually says. They have both indicated that basically I think it says they're minded to oppose it.
Yes.
Now, the reason I say this on the Commons, slip in terms of time, generally timetable at some point. The uncertainty here is, of course, surrounding the future of Mrs May herself. And we talk about these letters going in demanding a resignation. 48 letters are received. There would then be a vote of confidence in Mrs May that lose that, of course, and not the Prime Minister any longer. There would be a question mark, I think, over this deal, because that would be the reason she's gone. The other option is that she might resign, but of course, just over an hour ago, she held a fairly defiant press conference behind me in Downing Street and said, am I going to see this through? Yes. You have finished, haven't you? That would be very funny.
Okay, here we go. Watch Ben Mates.
We should stay here till Penny leaves. I think so. I'll work an hour off so I can go and
now for this Brexit deal?
Well, in terms of those a lot, but you never see events today. I have comments where pretty much every MP stood up, every MP behind the own party said they hated Brexit plan because they see it as potentially play unlimited massive of not being able to escape, taking the EU forever, and they are all most of them are saying, not budging, pressing on to Sunday week, that she will be occupied in the EU, and she did. Miraculously, her MPs were changed their mind. Now, miracles do sometimes happen, but this is a scale that I think none of us would expect. I don't see how she does that.
Okay, so she is saying she's holding firm, she doesn't punch. It may not always be her choice though. I mean, what for her future as the leader, as Prime Minister?
Well, she said recently we were at the end game of Brexit negotiations. Many of our people were saying that it is the end game of the signing off. We're hearing that letters are going in with force. I think it's quite slick how he voted so confident. Now, just now, she said she would stay and fight. She will not sit in the line if a vote of that sort is called. That's what I sort of read out that here. Text that was just been sent to me by one of the rebels, and he said that while he was talking to the press, he was called twice with letters going in, nothing has changed, and it's all incredibly now tonight Michael goes and considering whether to resign. Third candidate to go tonight. Genuinely, I don't think I should.
So, Leisha, the programme, what exactly does Brexit actually mean? What voters in pro-Leave Sunderland? What voters in pro-Leave Sunderland make these peers have blocked the suspension of Lord Leston, despite a watchdog finding he harassed a woman and promised to make her a baroness in exchange for sex.
Chief Minister, if you brought it there, it's on the door.
No, it's Ross.
No. Yeah, sorry. I got confused, sorry.
Is the deal going to last, Mr. Livingston?
Great to see you again. Very good. See you. Take care. I'll catch you later. Catch you.
Move on with other news. Facebook joined forces to gain access to vulnerable victims has been found guilty of raping a 13-year-old girl. In York, started working for Cheshire Police, despite being subject to the rape investigation by many reports. He has been told to expect the boss of the troubled cake chain, Theresa May, was stepped down as the company brings in a new chief executive to lead its Christian God thinks that sexuality, and the Christian charities and mannerism of homosexuality and addiction. He told this programme that bad practices be exposed. What's right? Say again.
So people who work hard, they're prepared. I mean, well, no, I can't. I mean, we've only got, we've already got 17 that have gone on Brexit. Oh, someone go in. Is that Sam? Get on this. Is that Sam Beaver? I actually can't tell. And the right, so what's the Brexit? Usual work and you what? And have some of them already put that? It's just a little bit covered. That's got it. What do you think? Got it. What do you think?
Sofa because the search is on the over £76 million euro lottery ticket. It was bought in Boston or Stockholm in Lincolnshire and matched all 5 numbers and both lucky stars in the draw on the 2nd of November. Prize is there on standby. Quite common storage size. Backlash against Theresa May and her Brexit deal.
But there wasn't down in it. And the point is, if the ERG is in, when you point the ERG is prepared. Jason, basically, through time, landed, on the track, and then we're going to have countries. There's always been.
I just feel that so
Two.
Right.
6. So they, okay, fine. So you have a look. So the back down preparing, but they haven't yet felt the need to do the begging clause. But how does it work? So say they reach 48, then Graham will go and check again. But then does it, I mean, if it happens, if they reach 48 tonight, does that happen to Monday? What about Graham? And then what about Graham himself? What about Graham himself?
Another extraordinary day for the Prime Minister. Extreme pressure. Theresa May could still face this. Still behind. On the side, over there, having reservations, accusations,
Very comfortable.
Mrs May says, just like that, boycott is
two great parties. Aspecting to epic multi-dimensional crisis. God, I fear what would happen if Tommy Robinson started the political party. You just like, you guys are some of you lot are getting your act together, seriously. I mean, I suppose you might look across the aisle at this point, but like, some absolute nuts. At any moment, please guys, I can't cope with it. I mean, it's funny up to a point, but it gets quite dark. How are you with the deal, generally? Are you happy? Let's give me the title. But you see that actually being out against So what's the point then? I suppose, and then have you heard much about Michael? Yeah. Why is it? There's an episode of West Wing exactly like this. Well, okay, that's very helpful. Well, listen, no, nothing. What? How can I describe you? How can I describe former witch? No one's talking about it. Ah, okay. What else can I say? Well, MP, senior MP, government source. There we go. There we go. We get it in the end. Okay. That's extremely helpful. Thank you. Well, I'll stay if you get activated. That will. I will. Thank you very much. Good man. Cheers. Bye. Something.
What we take?
Oh, I think we are up now.
Depends whether they have more guests. Well, it depends on staying here. Yeah, if the travelling staying here, yeah. It's like a camp bag, probably go there.
Penny left.
for you. Oh, you saw her go?
No, I wasn't at the end of the game.
I can hear you, yes, hello. Oh, okay.
Still there. Got his
Hey Sam, Finn here. How's it going? Apparently, hello, can you hear me? Oh, sorry. Apparently she's been seen somewhere else, so she's already left. Back door, yeah, she's come back. Yeah.
Hello.
Right. It's at 10:30.
Okay.
I didn't really have much time to get to know that.
Actually, haven't seen Rach Denson, have you? You took the one off my lens, didn't you?
I did, and I hung it on the back of the
on the back, yeah.
thing.
Definitely mine.
This one.
Yeah.
No, I just.
Yeah.
Don't remember what I was thinking.
Sorry? Yeah, go back to Austin about it, yeah. Yeah, so I need to offload the whole car and fix something tomorrow.
No, it's good for a producer.
You like, Penny's left. Do we know if she's resigned or anything?
I don't know yet, no.
No, she's left, isn't it? How is she? So we are told.
Say they're going missing, yeah.
Yeah, we're not covering off this all the back doors. What left?
Huh?
I'm just about to go live.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, Morton's left. All right. We're told that she's left.
Okay, sure.
You coming up to she's left. Oh. What? Stay here.
into Google, types in spider. He says, so that kind of looks good. Like intentionally. He said, yeah. So, well, like, and it disappears off the screen. You've got the spider example. It's a good one.
I was just going to text you. Hello. No, I was just going to see when the next thing is. You're right.
No, she went in, but somebody might have seen come out.
Fine.
Adds to the turmoil that is around
Three. Fine. Okay. Yeah, I'm off tomorrow, so yeah, that's fine.
She's gone apparently. Mordaunt's gone.
Yeah, I should do that. I might
Out
do
of
that.
a different door. In a government car.
Yeah. Okay, so to double check, Claudia's clear now if she wants. Okay. Cheers, bye. Well, I'm sorry to see.
What's happening now?
You're on tomorrow.
Yes, I mean, where to start, Day Dermot? You have those resignations, you have the letters going in, you had a brutal session in Parliament, one of the most eyebrow-raising sessions for any Prime Minister to face that I can remember. And then you have the rumour mill continuing swirling about further resignations that could be on their way this evening. I think the first thing to say is, if you stand back and look at that session in Parliament, it does look extremely difficult to see where the Prime Minister gets the majority for that deal that was so tough for her to construct, to get through Cabinet. It's difficult to see how she gets that through the Commons, just by looking at the number of people openly attacking that deal from her own side as well. You heard from Jacob Rees-Mogg outside the Commons. He was even more devastated inside the Commons chamber, where he effectively challenged the Prime Minister not to send a letter of confidence in, questioning essentially her honesty over things like keeping Britain out of the customs union, keeping it out of the European Court of Justice. So that was a fairly extraordinary moment, as was the moment when Nigel Dodds, the Westminster leader of the DUP, he stood up and said that the Prime Minister's deal would lead to the UK being a vassal state and the breakup of the Union. That is the man who signed the confidence supply deal that kept Theresa May in number 10 last year, saying that about her most important action as Prime Minister. Over the course of the day, we've had more resignations. Dominic Raab alone would be enough for many people to start asking those questions about the Prime Minister's future. But the letters have gone in, and there was that extraordinary moment with Mr. Rees-Mogg and Steve Baker, the former Brexit Minister, essentially trying to get the rest of the Brexiters to come into line and lodge their letters too. Now, where are we on those letters? 48 is the key number that would precipitate a mandatory leadership race for the Conservative Party. Where are we on that? Many in the Conservative Party speculate, have been contacting me saying that they think the 48 letters are there, but they don't actually know. What I do know is that number 10 is battening down the hatches, preparing allies in order to go out and lobby Brexiters to stand by the Prime Minister. What you heard from the Prime Minister in that press conference was obviously fighting tall. Yes, she will see this out, was her message. Nothing greatly and grandly new apart from that, and also that allusion to being a little bit like one of her cricketing heroes, Geoffrey Boycott, who gets the runs in the end, she said. So a defiant Prime Minister, but one that I think is a little shell-shocked. And this is just about the last thing she'd want to be doing right now. she wants to be selling this deal to the public and to the MPs that matter, selling its qualities, the fact that she thinks it protects the economy. None of that can happen while she faces this tumult from her own divided party.
Oh, about the rock jumping out. Yeah.
I've seen ghostly indoors.
That made me do weird stuff. White balance.
Sorry. Did what? Tell her police. Where did you walk?
Strange things with white balance.
Why?
To get gross. Yeah, evidently. What, from the horse people?
The other guys that stood at the
Oh, okay.
Well, this lunchtime I went along to stand outside the European Responsibility chaired by
It's very funny.
It's great from our point of view because there was actually a glass panel
I only
inside
first
the
heard
door,
them doing it a few months
so you
ago.
could pull through.
As soon as you've done one, I was like,
holding it.
Does
you
it
wait
happen?
5 minutes. Yeah, you wait 5 minutes and that person will move on.
Banging in the traditional conservative way after he made his speech and announced he was going to put in a letter. But then it was clear, and also sitting in the audience, you've got Boris Johnson, Ian Duncan Smith himself, the victim of That's true. There can't be many days in history where a Prime Minister publicly answered questions for 3.5 hours. The speculation tonight is surrounding
Stansel. He went up to Parliament Square.
Victoria, isn't it? Yeah. I'm one of the trainees of the Press Association. How's it going? Have you been here all day? No. Oh, okay. So
She's already out.
no, so I'm on the news desk at the moment. Yeah.
In the House of Commons Conservatives, and it was fortunate from our point of view. There was a glass panel in the door, the committee door, unusually, so you could look through and see who was there. About 35, 40 people there, including Boris Johnson. With Duncan Smith from our suffer a vote of no confidence. And Jacob Rees-Mogg announced he was putting in his on there.
Yeah, so there was
But it was clear that
Andy was there.
everybody came out and said there was a visit, and Jacob Rees-Mogg later confirmed that. There are those members of the ERG to put in letters
And then
because it Theresa May likes to win a vote of confidence
together.
and therefore reinforce her position because there can't be another vote under the rules for another 12 months. Interestingly, we can only maybe a bit more Tories who have so far publicly said that they put in letters. That's well short of the 48 that's needed. Who knows? It could be now.
All the scope stuff.
Can Theresa May succeed survive by winning it by a vote of one, or is there a certain threshold, 100, beyond which it's
Yeah, and we think. Okay, cheers, bye. Yeah.
Yeah, according to my man, I'll quote them.
Okay, fine. Penny's not resigned. Gove, they won't have Gove, they wouldn't talk about it, which suggests that it's been on the campaign chair. So that's only if that helps. Listen, they are on war footing. They have sent out to help persuasive MPs. They've sent out lists of people to contact, but not told them to contact them yet. She's all very, very close.
Yeah, because she took over.
But they haven't. I mean, so it's close, but it's not. It's not. They haven't told them to contact them. But they're preparing. They're bowing down the hatches now. They're ready to activate a plan to save them. So there are still that isn't actually a piece of information. I suppose to everyone trying to guess how many letters have gone in, which is very useless and thankless task. If people that know what they're talking about have read the Theresa May press conference as the press conference of somebody who knows that the letters are
Hello, Emma. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. How are you?
Very well.
I've got plans for tomorrow. She's going to be doing a live radio phone tomorrow. So that will be obviously. I doubt it. Yes, maybe.
Breakdown is that building over there.
So we can't.
The 10's there, the 11's there.
Do you want to check the
12's a cocktail bar.
Cheers. Bye.
There's a little UV light above it. It's called Checkers. It's called Checkers Cocktail Bar.
Checkers Cocktail Bar, sounds great. David Davis is behind it well, yeah?